Om Namah Shri Atirajaya Vivekananda Suraye.
This is not switched to.
Om Namah Shri Atirajaya Vivekananda Suraye. Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharini. My respectful pranams to revered Matajis and namaskars to all brothers and sisters gathered here. I'm just going to tell you a story today because we are going to discuss something very profound through the medium of a story. We have some classes in our ashram in which students and especially IIT students have asked a very profound question and they wanted me to cover it in IIT here. And that is regarding self-knowledge. Who is the knower? Who is the knower? Who is it who is knowing something? You see, when we try to know something, you have all the various sciences to help you know the object. You have psychology to help you know the medium, the way of knowing, the method of knowing. But what science do we have to know the subject? Who is it who is knowing? Since they have put the question, who is the knower? How to know the knower? So I thought that this is the presentation which should be made here. Also, it will come around to this particular topic, that is ethical values for enhancing human capital, because you know, self-knowledge is at the source of values or ethics. We would like to fondly believe that our theologies and our philosophies are the source of ethics, but the Upanishads will clearly point out to you that the source of ethics is the core existential reality in man. And if you penetrate into that, you become ethical without a philosophy. You don't need a philosophy of ethics to be moral. If you just penetrate into the core reality regarding man. So how they do it and what this exploration is like, we will try to penetrate into that through this study of self-knowledge. The story is from the Chandogya Upanishad. It is the story of Indra and Verona from the Chandogya Upanishad. This is a very interesting story because here, step by step, Indra is led to self-knowledge, or what we call Atma Vidya. It's a very profound topic, and that is why we need a story to go into it. Now, the story begins like this. At some point of time, there was a loud Akashvani which covered the whole world. You know Akashvani? The cosmic FM radio, which everyone hears. So, the Akashvani said, it was an Akashvani from Prajapati Brahma, and he announced that the knowledge of the Atman takes one beyond all pleasure and pain. It takes one beyond everything, all the dualities of life, all joy and sorrow. It takes one beyond all sorrow even. And that is why one who intuits the Atman in the core of his heart, he will be able to go beyond the dualities of life. He becomes supremely satisfied and he attains to immortality. This was the announcement. Now this was heard by everyone, the gods, the demons, the human beings, all over the world. And suddenly the gods became very interested in this. You know, the gods with the capital G. These are the deities like Agni, Verona, Indra, who are in heaven, all in charge of divine offices. Each element they are in charge of. Like Agni is in charge of the element of fire. So these gods got interested in this knowledge. They held a meeting and they thought that they should send a representative to learn this Atma Vidya from Prajapati Brahma. So they selected Indra to go to Prajapati's ashram. Now the Asuras also heard this announcement and they thought, oh, he said that attaining this, one has all of one's desires satisfied, which means this is the master key to attain all our desires. So let us also go and get this knowledge. So they sent their representative Virochana also to Prajapati's ashram. Now Indra and Virochana come to Prajapati's ashram as students, celibate students ready for Atma Vidya. Their perception was they will stay with him for some time and get this knowledge and then go back and do whatever they like. They will have something very solid with them. Now, as soon as they thought of this and they came into the ashram, they saw that the very atmosphere of Prajapati's ashram was very serene. So their troubled mind somehow became calm. Then they further came to Prajapati Brahma and then he asked them, what have you come for? They said, we have come as students to your ashram in order to get Brahma Vidya. Atma Vidya. We want to know what you meant by that pronouncement, that Akashvani. Prajapati Brahma said, you see, it is not easy to get Brahma Vidya, self-knowledge. If you want to know the self, the Atman, stay with me for some time. So both Indra and Virochana settled down in the ashram. They stayed with him, and the ashram routine is not very easy. So they had to change their ways. They had to get up very early in the morning. They had to do meditation. They had to learn the scriptures. They had to do chanting. They had to do all the work in the ashram. They had to help the guru in his yajnas. They had to learn from him. They had to serve him. So they adjusted to the life in the ashram, and they found that as the years passed, their minds were getting calmer and calmer, and more clearer thought was coming into them. After some time, they realized they had spent quite some time in the ashram. Let it be. I'll tell you when it comes.
Okay.
So after some time, they realized that it is now quite some time that we are in the ashram, but we have not yet been instructed in the Atman, in the knowledge of the Atman. So they went to Prajapati and said, sir, we have been here for 32 years. It was 32 years by that time. By our standards, you know, the standard is different there. Whatever it is, after some time they said, the Prajapati said, yes, of course, you have been here for so long, but you see, it is not easy to get Atma Vidya. But I will give you a hint. You are asking for instructions about Atma Vidya. I will give you an important hint. Then he said, the light in your eyes is the Atman. The being in your eyes is the Atman. Now you see, if you ponder over this statement, it's a very profound statement. What is the light in our eyes? We can understand physical light, isn't it? Any physical energy you can understand. What is the light in our eyes? Isn't it the light of awareness? He is talking about awareness. But these two, Indra and Virochana, did not understand. So they looked at each other and they looked puzzled. So Prajapati Brahma said, oh, you didn't understand what I said. Bring a container of water. They brought a container of water and he said, look at your images in that. What do you see? And they said, they looked and they saw their bodies. And then they told Prajapati Brahma, we see our image, the reflection of this body in the water. They also saw their overgrown hair and nails because you see they had been leading an austere life in his ashram for a long time. So he said, okay, go and trim your hairs and nails and come and tell me what do you see. So they did all that and they came back and they told him, we just see our reflection in the water, nothing else. And then he said, see properly. It's a reflection of what? Again, ponder over this question. When you look at yourself in the mirror, it's a reflection of what? And then Prajapati said, this is the reflection of your body. So when you say my reflection, are you that reflection only? Are you the body only? Think about it. He left them with this question. Now Virochana, you know, he had a muddled brain because he was actually an asura. He said, oh, Prajapati Brahma immediately has said, the reflection in the water is you, which means the body is me. So, well, I have nothing more to learn. I have known the Atman, the body is the Atman. So he went back, straight from the ashram, back to his loka there, to his asuras and told them, look man, what we were believing in for so long, that is the truth. The body is the Atman. There's nothing more to the human being. So just indulge, eat, drink, be merry. Don't bother about anything else. If you indulge the body, well, that is the aim of human life because the Atman is the body. The reflection in the water is you, Prajapati Brahma said. So was created the clan of Asuras given entirely only to the pleasures of the five senses. And they tried to make merry with only the five senses, with body consciousness. But Indra, who was still in Prajapati's ashram, he immediately thought, what is this that he is saying? The reflection is you. But you know, I can see this reflection. It is an object before me. The body, I can study it objectively. So obviously, I am not the body. If you can study something objectively, can you be that thing? It's simple logic. If I see something as an object in front of me, if I can study it, can I be that? I can't be that. So it immediately flashed to him, there must be something more to this. He went back to Prajapati Brahma and he said, Sir, tell me, who am I? I am definitely not this reflection in this water. This is a reflection of my body, which is an object of my perception. Who am I? Now here we should also wonder, have you ever thought of this question, who am I? This question is actually like an earthquake. It can shake the ground under your feet if you think intensely about it, if you ponder over it. We ask ourselves, who am I? Because the question does not bring forth an answer readily. We just leave it out. And we get busy with objects, with other things. But you know, if you actually penetrate into this question, you penetrate into self-knowledge, into Atma Vidya. The ordinary person's life, 50% of our life goes in building an I, building a sense of self-identity. The other 50% goes in defending it. Where is the time to inquire about who am I? But Upanishadic inquiry starts with this question. What is this I sense in me? What do I mean by I? What is the unchanging element in me? What is it that remains even when the body falls? What is it that remains when the mind is not functioning? Shouldn't that be the essential part of me? Shouldn't that be the real I? The unchanging element in me, what is it? So this flashed into Indra's mind. You see, the story is very short. I am stretching it in order to accommodate the essential concepts. So Indra went back to Prajapati and said, Sir, guide me further. I can understand I am not just the body. Body is an object of my perception. Prajapati was happy. He said, son, you are coming to the answer. Live with me for some more time. Indra spent the next 32 years also there. Because it was so interesting a subject. If you actually think deeply about it, you can't but be interested. How can you not be interested in yourself? This is your real self. It's a research into that. So he stayed back and he read the Upanishads. He read these texts. More and more ideas became clear to him. After some time, he again went to Prajapati for instruction. This time, Prajapati told him, son, the being in your dreams, that is the Atman. The being in my dreams? Again, Indra thought, you see, what happens when you dream? Is the dream an objective reality before you? No, you are a participator in the dream. Isn't it? You enjoy your dream, or you fear your dream, or you pass through a variety of emotions in the dream. You identify with things which you are not in the dream. So you are not just a detached observer of the dream, you are a participator. You become the dreamer. You become the dreamer. So when you become the dreamer, obviously you cannot know what the real I is. You are not a detached observer. So what does he mean by you are the being in the dreams? He went back to Prajapati and said, look, when I dream, I become the dreamer. So I cannot say the dreamer is the Atman. The dreamer also is changing. Every night I have a different dream. The dreamer is different. So tell me, what do you mean by I? Again, Prajapati said, son, once you have understood, you are an observer even of your dream. You are an observer of your deep sleep state. You will come to self-knowledge. That is why I told you, look at the observer in your dream. See who is dreaming and see who can stay apart from the dream. When he came to this, Indra said, I want to know the being who can even see the dream objectively. I do not want to participate in the dream. Prajapati says, you are coming to that knowledge then. You are coming to that knowledge, stay with me for some more time. So Indra spent another 32 years, a total of 96 years with the Guru. And still, you see, this is an age of instants, isn't it? Everything instantaneously you want. Self-knowledge is one thing that does not come instantaneously because it is an unfoldment from within. It is not a descending from somewhere. It's a change, transformation of one's own consciousness. It takes time. Brahma Vidya, what does it do? Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. His very awareness becomes pure consciousness. So how intense must be the aspiration? How absolute must be the interest? Noticing this, Prajapati told him, wait another 5 years. And his aspiration just conflagrated Indra's aspiration. And finally, he was ready for self-knowledge. And then, you see, it is very beautiful. They don't say it in so many words, but I will give you the actual meaning of self-knowledge. How do you know the subject? what Shankaracharya says on it, what our Brahma Sutras have mentioned about it, what the commentaries of Shankaracharya on this Upanishad say about it. In the form of slides, I will show you what is meant, how exactly you come to know of the knower. What is the method used? What is the method used when you want to know it, something as an object? And what is the method you will naturally use if you want to know the supreme subject? This is what we will study. Now let me open this slide for you. Yes, I want this full screen. Yes. Now just look at that slide. Whenever you are wanting to know any object, what is exactly happening? This is something we should ponder about. You should think about. Look at that first image there. Whenever you see an object, just now you are looking at that PPT. What is happening? An image of the object falls on your eye. Every object throws out a certain amount of light, so it carries its image, and that falls on your eye. That is taken, that goes to your visual cortex, that is taken to your cerebrum, and there it interprets what that image is. Isn't this what is happening? This is simple perception according to science. The light thrown out by an object gets into your eye, and the image is created on the retina, an inverted image. It is taken by the optic nerve to the visual cortex in the brain, and there it is interpreted. Now just listen to this question. An image is created on your cerebral cortex. How does it become an experience for you? An image was reflected there in the form of electrochemical signals. How did it become an experience for you? When you see a rose, you feel the red rose, isn't it? You don't see it as an image. You see, even that video camera is tracking images. It sees it only as an image, but you feel the redness of a rose. You feel the blueness of the sky. Every sensation is felt. How does a perception become an experience? Without consciousness, how can it become an experience? Without awareness, how can a simple perception become an experience? This is the actual point. You see, consciousness studies is trying to track this. This is actually the hard problem of consciousness studies. How exactly does perception become experience? How do I feel it as a first-person conscious experience? How does it become like that to me? It feels like a 3D, three-dimensional reality in real time and space. Any experience for you. How does it happen? Now, this is where we should understand. You see, I've given a cross-section of the brain there to show you what science is telling about perception. If just an image in the form of electrochemical signals goes into your brain, it cannot produce an experience for you. Isn't it quite obvious? Even if you say the firing of neurons, even if you say electrochemical signals, the experience is a first-person conscious experience, which is unexplainable by today's methods of science. So now here Upanishads will throw an enormous insight into this. You see what Upanishads tell you about perception. Perception in Vedanta is like this. Whenever you see an object, now you see you are seeing that tree there. Your mind is involved. Your mind is the instrument of perception. Science does not talk of mind. Now what is the importance of the mind here? You see, you may be seeing something, but if your mind is not there, it is somewhere else. You may be just looking, but you are not seeing. Have you noticed this? Many times it happens. You are looking at something, but your mind is not in place. You are not mindful, so you are not experiencing the thing. You are not actually seeing it. So mind has to be there for perception to take place. Core point in Vedanta. And exactly what happens when you see an object? The mind modifies according to the object. This is what Vedanta will tell you. The mind takes the object in and gets slightly modified. This is what is called vritti. A vritti of the object is created in the mind. The mind is the lens there. You see? The object becomes a vritti in your mind that is illumined by the consciousness shining behind the mind. That is how you know the object. This is what Vedanta will tell you about perception. Now make a few things clear here. You see, unless a vritti of the object is created in your mind, the mind modifies according to the object, you cannot have knowledge of the object. When your mind is not there, no vritti is created, so you have no knowledge. So the first principle in Yoga Vedanta is Ekameva Darshanam Khyatireva Darshanam, it is called, which means if you want to know an object, it is only possible if you create a vritti of it in your mind. Vritti Gnan is called Khyati. So only if a vritti is created, it will be illumined by consciousness standing behind, and you will know the object. You will know that that tree is a tree. So you see, this is the difference. Now I have put it there, the Atman or self, which is pure consciousness, gets reflected in the mind. This is called Chidabhas and illumines the modifications of the mind. This is the second important point you must understand from this slide. When no object is here, still the light of consciousness is always reflected in the mind. That is why you feel a sense of awareness within you, isn't it? Even when there are no thoughts in our mind, don't you feel a sense of awareness? Do you ever doubt your existence? Tell me. Any of you? Are you unsure of your existence? Do you ever say, I do not know if I exist? We never say it. Why? We know awareness always exists. Awareness is the primary part of our being. Thoughts come and go in that awareness. This is fundamental understanding of Vedanta. So you see, they are giving you some very important clues to Atma Vidya. Chidabhas has to be understood. The reflected consciousness always shining in your mind, which gives you the sense of being and existence, is what is called Chidabhas. When you look at an object, the mind itself suffers a modification which is called vritti, and that invested awareness is used to illumine that vritti. That is how you know the object. Now, once you understand these points, we will go to how, now what are we trying to do in Atma Vidya? We are trying to get at that bulb, the one that illumines the mind, isn't it? That should be Atma Vidya. What is it that illumines the vrittis of the mind? That should be the Atman. So then for that to happen, actually there should be no divergent rays, isn't it? It should all be convergent towards the Atman, which means if the light of the mind, the modifications of the mind, the light that comes out of the senses, all are turned inward, avritta chakshu, that is what is called, then and converge at one point, you will get the knowledge of the subject. So this is a very beautiful mantra in the Kathopanishad. Paranchikhani vyatrinat swayambhu tasmat paran pashyati nantaratman kaschid dhira pratyagatmanamaikshat avritta chakshu amritatvam ichan, which means the senses are turned outward. So the mind also is turned outward, constantly picking up objects outside. But some wise man thought, why should the research only be outward? Who am I who is researching? So what did he do? Avritta chakshu. He turned his mind, he turned his senses inward and found that which is immortal. This is what this mantra says. So how to produce this avritta chakshu, turning those divergent rays to converge inward? How can it happen? You see, this is where who am I becomes pertinent. If you ask this question intensely, the mind will naturally turn inward. The senses will naturally turn inward. When we pray, don't we close our eyes? What are we trying to do? We are trying to close the senses, trying to penetrate within. So you see, actually if you want an answer to the I, who am I? This is the answer Vedanta gives you. The light of pure consciousness reflected in the mind, the antakaran, it is what is called Chidabhas. It is the light of awareness that pervades your buddhi. It generates the empirical sense of awareness, our sense of being. And this is technically called the jiva, that the entity that designates itself as I. This is the meaning of I. It is that pure light of consciousness which gets reflected in the mind. Now, this reflection is not the ultimate truth. It is still reflected light. To get at the truth, obviously what you have to do, the reflection also has to be turned back towards its source. Isn't it? Avritta chakshu actually means that. You see, turning the light within will mean turning the light of awareness back to its source. It's not just to stop at the reflected light of Chidabhas in your mind. That also should turn towards the source. So the methods usually used are shutting out the modifications of the mind. This is what yoga is about. Yogastu chitta vritti nirodha means you shut out the modifications of your mind. And working to intensify Chidabhas or reflected consciousness. This is Sankhya, and Vipassana techniques also speak of this. You are working at increasing awareness in your mind. But Vedanta will tell you none of this will work, especially Advaita Vedanta. It takes an extreme stand, you see. It will tell you none of this will work. Just clean the lens of your mind and it will reflect the light behind it. When you clean the lens of your mind, when you purify your mind completely, the light will naturally turn back to its source. The lens starts functioning like a mirror. A mirror turns its light towards its source, isn't it? So you get a perfect reflection of yourself. So the lens of your mind will get converted into a mirror if you only clean it, polish it like that. And the method they give for that is generate the pure aham pratyay, the pure sense of I-ness in you. And that will lead you to its source. Usually our I sense is very deluded, identified with this and that. I am such and such. I have done all this. These are my accomplishments. This is my qualification. This is my job. All this takes us away from the core reality that we are, the truth of our own being. But if you understand this split, how, well, this is just a transactional definition of myself. My real definition is this. I'm a unit of pure consciousness, whose first reflection is in the mind. So if you polish that mind, it will turn the light back to its source. And if you generate that pure aham pratyay there, the pure sense of I, naturally you will be led to the source. That is the method which Advaita Vedanta gives you. If you study the lives of saints, you will see they ask the question, who am I? And they reach the truth. The I sense was so pure. It was not identified with anything. Vedanta is penetrating into the very core of your sense of self-identity and giving you the permanent definition of you, the real sense of yourself. So, only clean the lens and the light will sparkle. This is how one goes towards Atma Vidya or Brahma Vidya. And the method given by Advaita Vedanta is generating the pure aham pratyay, will reflect the pure self. And this is how you can know the self. Now here I want to give you a few key differences to sum up between what is called ordinary perception and what is this extraordinary, supersensuous perception. Look at that slide, paroksha anubhuti, which means ordinary perception. Objective knowledge, objective perception. What does it do? It is vritti based. As we discussed, there must be a change in your mind for you to observe the object. But aparoksha anubhuti, it is only aham pratyay based. You may call it a kind of vritti jnana, but actually it is based entirely on something very different, something very transcendental. A very pure state of mind is required in order to intuit this, and this is perfectly possible. The second point is, the medium of perception in paroksha anubhuti is always dense, isn't it? There are a number of thoughts in the mind, but for aparoksha anubhuti, the medium must be absolutely clear. The mind must have become a mirror so that it can throw back its own light on its source. The third difference is awareness invested is minimal because the mind is all cluttered in ordinary perception. But in aparoksha anubhuti, the mind is so pure, the awareness you have invested is complete. That itself will lead you to the heart of that awareness, to the source of your awareness, which is pure consciousness. And paroksha anubhuti is heavily mediated knowledge. Isn't it? When you see something, if you're seeing that vase there, you see, first of all, that vase has to throw out a specific light at you, light waves at you. If it was not throwing out light, you would not see it. It would appear dark to you. This is simple science. And when it throws out light at you, the light has to pass through a medium, get into your eye, create an image there on your retina. So the retina should be in proper functioning order. The optic nerve should be properly functioning. It should go to your brain. Brain should be functioning. Somehow you make the interpretation. Heavily mediated knowledge, this is called. But aparoksha anubhuti requires none of these. Immediately you know what is the truth because you have turned the light that reflects off the mind towards its source. Immediately you will know the truth about the Atman. Swami Vivekananda, somebody asked him, how does self-realization take place? He said, in a flash. It's a flash of intuition. In the twinkling of an eye, you will know the source of my being is pure consciousness. It happens instantly if the mind is purified. So you see, these are the basic differences between ordinary perception and the Atma Vidya that we are talking of. That is why Atma Vichar does not stop at Manan. You know, these are the 3 steps. We are just now doing Shravan. When you think over it, it will be Manan. It does not stop with even Manan. You have to go into Nididhyasan, which means meditation, because it seeks to find the foundations of self-awareness by penetrating into the immediate and incontrovertible experience of one's existence as the ego. What gives me this sense of I? This sense of a kind of exclusivity, this sense of being. What is the source of that? It is leading you to that. It is an intuitive process leading to direct mystical experience. This is the actual fact about Brahma Vidya. The nature of consciousness itself is that both consciousness and love are afterglows of a unitary experience. It is beautifully described by Shankaracharya as Swasamvedya Swayam Prakashatvat, which means it is so effulgent, you don't need anything else to prove its existence. It is so effulgent. The consciousness that radiates from the source of your being is so effulgent, you don't need another awareness to understand what it is. It can never be an object of perception, that is why. Do you need a torch to reveal the sun? Do you require a torch to show you the light of the sun? The sun is so bright, everything else is inundated by its light. So consciousness is like that. At that stage, you do not require an instrument to tell you that this is Brahma Vidya. This is the light of consciousness. It is only most self-evident, as he says, and it does not require any other proof. Just like how your existence is evident with or without the body, with or without thoughts, isn't it? It is something like that. Instantly you know what consciousness means. The experience itself cannot be objectively caught and studied. If you try to bring it within the triad of knower, knowledge and known, you are trying to abuse Brahma Vidya. It can never come into this triad because you are the supreme knower itself. That is why Shankaracharya makes this very interesting observation here. Prapancha mithya drishyatvat. Very difficult to digest this point. It's a mind-boggling statement. He says, because something like this prapancha is objectively perceptible, it's an object of perception, it is unreal. According to all science, if something is an object of your perception, it is real, isn't it? Every science will tell you that if you can see something, it is real. He is telling you if you can see something, it is unreal, because it is heavily mediated knowledge. The moment it becomes object, it goes far from you. You will need the mediation of many things to know its superficial dimensions. You will not know the thing as it is. Only Brahma Vidya, being the supreme knowledge of the subject, being unmediated, it is absolute. That knowledge is authentic. So you see, objectification leads to falsity of experience. Any one of you can say, well, how can you make such a vast generalized conclusion? Entire science, the edifice of science, is based upon the truth of perception. Isn't it a very strong, it's called pratyaksha praman even in philosophy. Very strong proof of anything being there is you can objectively see it. But you know, in your own experience, you see many things which are not there. Can I give you some examples? Do you go out on morning walks and evening walks? Any of you? You must be going out, no? So there, when you go out for morning walks, nature is so beautiful, everything is so still, you see the sun rising, or if it's evening walk, you see the sun setting. It's a beautiful experience, but tell me truly, does the sun rise or set? But you see it. What you see is not absolutely true. The earth rotates, so you feel it. It's an optical illusion. But every day you see the sun rise and you see the sun set. You see your dreams and you don't doubt them in the dream. You see mirage. If you go to desert areas, you will see mirages. They are not real. What you see is not necessarily absolute proof of what is. This is what I'm trying to make, the point that I'm trying to make. It's in your own perception, it's in your own experience to understand this. The more profoundly we go into this knowledge, subjective knowledge, the more we will understand the pramanas which Vedanta uses are far greater pramanas than what we are working with currently. So, the conclusion then will naturally be the experiencer resolves into pure being during the experience. It's a state of pure being. That is why the experience of samadhi is all absorbing. When the mind and prana move, the world of objects takes shape. And when he comes out of it, the seer concludes, in comparison to any other state, this was the state of the highest bliss. It is being and becoming. As Swamiji said, Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. You become that state. It is not knowing it as an object. Very beautifully it is put in the Kathopanishad. Na sandrishe tishtati rupamasya, na chakshusha pashyati kasyanainam, hrida manisha manasa viklupto, ya evam vidur amritaste bhavanti. Which means, it will not stand before you as an object, the Atman. It is not an object of perception to your eyes. If you penetrate into your heart through a very refined intellect, the very concept of Brahman will become clear to you. Because it is your own consciousness which is trying to know. This is how you know the knower. And this is how Indra got self-knowledge. Once he got this knowledge from his Guru Prajapati, he did not know how to thank him. Because you see, this is such a tremendous experience. When you come to know the knower, all doubts are removed, all problems vanish, and ultimate clarity remains in the mind. And all knowledge becomes very clear because you have known the supreme subject. He goes back to heaven, gives this knowledge to the other gods. That is why the gods are gods, because they are established in this knowledge. And now if you ask me the use of this knowledge, there are people who put this question, of what use will this knowledge be? First of all, let me tell you, suppose a knowledge has no use. Suppose it has no use, it doesn't mean it is less real. Knowledge is in its own dignity great. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate. The Bhagavad Gita says it is supremely purifying. It liberates your mind. But this knowledge has enormous usage, enormous uses. First of all, what will this knowledge do to you? You see, Vedanta's penetration into the dimensions of the human personality, by that what is it doing? It is finding the very crux of human identity. This has enormous implications because the actual matrix of any culture, its understanding, its ideas, entirely depend upon, its aims also depend upon what it conceives the human being to be, what it considers man to be. And if that idea is clear, its aims will be very clear. If you think you are only the body, you will have only a material civilization, isn't it? If you think you are the mind, we will have an intellectual civilization, we will have a knowledge society. If I truly have a civilization of the greatest values, Atma Vidya directly leads to ethics. It unveils the source of ethics, unveils the source of values. Our favorite idea will be, well, my special religion is the source of values, or my special philosophy is. It is the core existential reality within yourself, which you are, which is the source of all value. This is what the Upanishads are telling you. And that is why Vivekananda, at one place he says, the infinite oneness of the soul is the eternal sanction of all morality. Hindu ethics is based on the ontology of the self. Why should I be good to you? Why should I do good to you? In simple language, let me put it. Because you are me in another form. As consciousness, we are not different. As body and mind, we may be different. But the awareness within us is the same. As consciousness, there is no difference. That is why I should be good to you. Why should you be good to me? Because I am you in another form. The difference is only in forms. This is what Vivekananda means when he says, the infinite oneness of the soul is the eternal sanction of all morality. So you see the great usage, entire science of ethics is based on self-knowledge, on these great ideas of the Vedanta. Another important usage of this knowledge is, it will reconcile objective and subjective sciences. The kind of tension that is there between science and religion will vanish when we understand the heart of religion is Brahma Vidya. It is a science in itself and it leads to the science of ethics. They are interconnected. That is why Mundaka Upanishad makes a great statement. It says, Brahma Vidya Sarva Vidya Pratishtham. Brahma Vidya is the source for all Vidyas. It is the support of all Vidyas. So it will help you interconnect the different branches of knowledge, and you will learn to classify knowledge in terms of its capacity to unleash human potential, not simply in terms of how it satisfies your senses. Isn't this a great gain for mankind? Look at the effect of the Upanishads. That is why it is called the supreme knowledge. It is the basis of every other form of knowledge because it is the subject who knows. If I only have knowledge of the object without knowledge of the subject, will I do justice to that knowledge of the object? Objective knowledge itself justifies itself, fulfills itself when it knows the subject, when you know the subject. So this is the other great utility. And the final great usage, I will not say final, many things can be drawn from this, but another great usage is it will give you a worldview entrenched in divinity. Our everyday tensions, unnecessary thinking, wrong thinking, irrational thought, emotional insecurities, all these problems are mental. They belong to the realm of the mind. When you discover the knowledge which is behind the mind learns to follow in those footsteps. It will take the light of this vidya in order to correct itself. Our understanding will become more clear. The tensions in our mind will become clear. Our self-created problems, most of our problems are self-created, they will be solved by themselves. Clarity of mind will come. Clarity of intellect will remain. This is the great usage, and that is how you rediscover higher levels of happiness also. You know, happiness is directly proportional to awareness. The more awareness unfolds, happiness will grow in us. It is actually not object-based. So, the implications of this vidya are very clear. Let me make the conclusion. The import of this story is that self-knowledge is the very heart, the source of all ethics. In fact, it is the science of ethics. And identifying oneself rightly is all the difference between a Indra and a Virochana. That is the conclusion. Thank you.